Rose.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual co-host and do not reflect the official policy or position of the Firearms Radio Network and or their employers. Viewer discretion is advised. This is especially true on our live shows.
Broadcast for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. This is the Firearms Radio Network. The bandwidth for this episode of This Week in Guns is sponsored by Patriot Patch Company. PatriotPatch.co.
Welcome to This Week in Guns. This show is brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network and Patriot Patch Company.
And the show offers commentary on the latest firearms industry news, information, and buzz. I'm your host, Sean Heron. And as always, I get to introduce our panelist. First up, he's the head dude of the Second is for Everyone Diversity Shooting Podcast, a Second Amendment advocate, co-host of the Guns and Gear Podcast on the FRN, firearms trainer at Simon Says Train, and his name is still Tony Simon. What's up, man?
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me on the show. And I'm the largest pound for pound gun bunny in America.
Boom. That just happened. Next up, we got some guy who never replies to the producer's emails, and now it's just some guy that no one knows anything about. I think he does something on Black Diamond Guns and Gear. His name is Josh. What's up, buddy?
I'm back in return for, the 100th time. No, I don't. It's good to be back here, man. I feel like I haven't done a live show in forever.
It's good to have you back, man. We almost canceled. The producer Ben was like, have you heard from him? I was like, I don't know, something about a nap. And he's like, he hasn't replied to me or filled out the show note. Nothing, Josh. You've done nothing.
It's bad. I don't email stuff, and I don't send out stuff in the mail very good. I don't know what it is. I'm not good at it.
I'm with you 100%. Hey, are you still quarantined from your hetero life mate?
Yes, unfortunately, I talked to him today, and I think that they're starting to lift the thing in Tennessee. So he's like, maybe it's safe to go out on Saturday. So we might try it. Nice.
All right. I love it. Well, let's get right into it, guys. First up, Patriot Patch Company, patriotpatch.co. You know Jake, you know Ryan, you love them. Patch of the Month Club is amazing. Can't wait to get mine for this month. It's going to be Easter Bunny, tactical Easter Bunny related. And every month, it's one of my favorite things to do is open it up and go put it on my patch wall. I probably should share some pictures of my patch walls. They're pretty cool. They fill up pretty dang quick. Next up, we've got Second Call Defense, firearmsradio.tv/SCD. If you carry a gun, use a gun, and you ever have to use it in self-defense for whatever, they make sure that you don't spend the rest of your life in jail. It's between $10 and $40, depending on what kind of coverage you want. And I highly recommend them. Please go check them out. Just look around, see what they have to offer, and decide what you would like after that. Right into it, Georgia candidate promises to give away an AR-15 to protect against looting hordes. I don't know. Looting hordes is not necessarily a thing that I'm worried about, but you never know where the country's going to go. He's a former congressman. Now he's running to represent Georgia's 9th district. And anyone who signs up for his email mailing list will have a chance to win an AR-15, which he says can be used against looting hordes, which I don't know. I thought was kind of funny. Like, I have no problem with this whatsoever. I just said a lot of people are saying, I should say, that looting hordes from Atlanta is racist.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't really.
Boy, that's woo. That's projection.
Yeah. All right, really quickly.
Yeah, he's hoping for a zombie apocalypse. Is that what he's trying to do, or what?
No, it's not racist at all to me. The direct quote is, whether it's looting hordes from Atlanta or a tyrannical government from Washington, there are a few better Liberty machines than an AR-15. I agree with that. I don't have a problem with that. He's from Georgia. He's using Atlanta. There's a lot of crime in Atlanta. It's not a racist thing at all. I think there's a lot of people that they will, because all they ever look for is racism. All they ever see is racism. I don't know. Tony Simon, what do you think?
I think, he could have had racist overtones when he said looters from Atlanta, or the people that somehow said that's racist and they're projecting it upon him. I want to know about this AR-15 giveaway because we know my favorite price is free $99, and but I hope it's
racist.
I hope it's not that junk AR I see him with in the picture with the A2 buttstock.
A2 buttstock and a completely enclosed shoulder thing that goes up.
Yeah.
So zombie on Anderson, right?
Whatever. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Josh, what are your thoughts here? Is it racist? Is it cool? Is it dumb?
I mean, it's only racist if he says it's racist.
True.
Really, think about it. I mean, who else was thinking that? Nobody.
Yeah, I wasn't not at any point until I read that in the article. What do you think about congressional candidates giving away AR-15?
I think it's cool that it makes it look like he's on our side, whether he is or not. It kind of makes it look like he is. So, I mean, like you said, I like $3.99 also. So, I mean, I can't argue with it. If it's going to happen and it gives me a chance to win one, I guess I'd do it. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm down with it. I think more politicians should give away AR-15s.
Sure.
Yeah, and they should come out of their pockets.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah,
they're probably paying for it.
They're going to funnel funds anyway.
Anyway, yeah. Then I want a D&D or I want a high-end AR then, dang it.
Oh, yeah.
Alex R says they should be giving out AR-14s. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Gun groups
Who had the Joe Biden AR-14 on their lower? Who made that? Was it Spikes?
I'm sure that it was multiple people. I guarantee Palmetto did one.
It's got to be Palmetto. They have to do one.
Yeah, Palmetto's like someone breathed, put out a breathe AR lower.
Palmetto's fast with it, man. I think
it's out there the next day.
It's wonderful. I was actually just looking at one of their lowers. I've got several Palmetto firearms that we've put together here for We Like Shooting, and we've torn one up. Like we've put the upper on machine guns. We've got digital trigger on it right now. Like we use that thing because it's one of our test platforms. I'm like, if it'll live through all the stuff that we do, it'll be good, and it's been just fine. So I was looking at one. It's the Liberty 15, and the fire selector switch is our We the People, and I thought that was cool. I was like, I'm not getting out of that. Anyway,
cool.
Gun groups in New Mexico sue the governor over gun store closures. So this is kind of interesting, and I think coming to a state near you soon. New Mexico governor, don't care what her name is, she's a Democrat, became the focus of a lawsuit Friday after her statewide emergency shutdown included firearms retailers. This governor issued the shutdown order for all non-essential businesses by March 24th and extended closures through April 30th. List of essential businesses did not include firearms retailers, manufacturers, or ranges, which clearly makes them kind of mad because 4 days after that first deadline, the Department of Homeland Security issued a memorandum supporting firearm and ammunition product manufacturers, retailers, importers, distributors, and shooting ranges as part of its essential critical infrastructure workforce. The Mountain States Legal Foundation is filing this lawsuit challenging the closure order, and my guess is it's going to go somewhere. We last week we talked a lot about what the Firearms Policy Coalition is doing, and yeah, this kind of stuff. We're going to see these challenges all over the place. In fact, today in Colorado, Pueblo County closed all gun ranges by order of the public health organization. Wow. So we'll see if that filters 30 minutes north to Colorado Springs. And if it is, hey, I know some guys at the FPC. We'll see what happens. Josh, what do you think? I mean, New Mexico, kind of crazy, right? It's like a pretty dangerous place.
Here's the thing. Like it may be a whole video in itself or whatever you want to call it, but basically I don't think that they have the right to, to tell us where to stay in our homes. They don't have the right to tell us to do whatever. I mean, we're a free country. We're made by free people to do whatever we want. So I don't think that they have the authority to tell us what to do in any way. Less government's better, right?
Yeah, it all comes back to governmental power, and police power is not one granted to the federal government. So,
but I would actually be surprised if Firearms Policy Coalition and stuff like that didn't sue them. I mean, I really would, because they should. I mean, why wouldn't they? It doesn't make any sense to take away a right that we have as human beings here in the United States not to do something about it.
Yeah, Tony, what do you think?
I think I can't wait for them to sue their butts off. I really wish that the governors of these states, including my own of New Jersey, I wish they had to pay for this out of their pocket instead of taxpayer money, because they're clearly violating the edict. I don't know what else to call it, passed down from Homeland Security, saying that these businesses are essential. And because of politics, they choose not to do so. Well, your politics have no place in this. You're using this COVID-19 as an excuse to overreach and overstep your powers. And I think they need, and their party needs to pay for this the next election.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Here's what's interesting to me. They issued the shutdown order for all non-essential businesses by March 24th. Now, I'm looking at some data here. So they have not at any point implemented a stay-at-home order. So New Mexico not under a stay-at-home order. Schools closed March 13th. Non-essential services closed the 24th, which is basically a stay-at-home order, I guess. But I also want to point out that they have never had a bed shortage, an ICU bed shortage. Their peak resource use for beds in hospitals and ICU and stuff is supposed to be April 26th, 2020. Their projections are the lowest that I've seen of any state that I've ever looked at. Their deaths yesterday were 7. Like they're not in danger. Their peak.
So it's a pretty rural area then.
Yeah. No, it's not. I mean, parts of New Mexico are, right, but like Albuquerque, stuff like that, they're decently populated. Santa Fe. But they're,
dude, like here, like everybody's essential. They haven't taken away hardly anything. They have car dealerships that are essential. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. First of all, car dealerships, car washes. Like I get if they're going to close stuff down, that's fine. But I mean, pick stuff that's essential that is actually essential.
Yeah, I mean, Tony, there's they have been very minorly hit by the.
With 7 deaths, more people died of cooties than died of COVID.
Yeah.
It's again, this using this disease, this virus, as an excuse to push through a political agenda that otherwise wouldn't be allowed to stand, and also blame the people who, of course, well, it's to save lives, and that's all you need to preamble crushing someone's rights with. Is to save lives, is for your own safety, and people accept it. And I think that may change because people getting tired of it.
Yeah, this is insane. If you go to covid19.healthdata.org, you will see that they are not in trouble. Their total deaths up to date is 26 out of the entire state.
How many died from the flu last year?
A lot. I don't want to say the wrong number, but their projected total deaths, worst case scenario, looks to be 152. This is fascism.
I mean, it's not like not a laughing matter that many people died, but as far as the amount of, you see my dog's butt in the background.
Oh yeah.
But the fact that, I mean, I forgot where I was going with that, but it's not funny that they died. But as far as the numbers goes, if you play the numbers game, nowhere close to anything else. Do you know what the numbers were like in H1N1?
Not off the top of my head.
Oh, what H1N1 deaths is 18,000, and 60 million people contracted it
across the United States,
across America.
Nothing happened with that. Nothing like this happened with that.
God and Guns podcast said, "Never let a crisis go to waste," and this seems to be a case there. There is no reason. I mean, there's not even a stay-at-home order issued there. I mean, closing everything, like I said, is a de facto one. But wow, I can't wait to see how this turns out.
Give me 1 second here. I actually pulled up New Mexico's flu deaths in 2018, and I'm trying to find a number. I'm tracking on a number. They give me percentages and stuff like that. Dang.
Yeah, these numbers are so tough to get sometimes.
All right, here we go. Death to pneumonia, 72 deaths to pneumonia, 2018.
So they are lockstep with what the COVID-19 deaths are going to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Not a laughing matter, but still, that's pretty laughable.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Like it's serious. I get it. It is. People die. Americans die. We don't want that to happen. The reason we do a lot of things, but at the same time, like New Mexico is not hugely at risk, and it's not because of anything the governor's done.
I'm sorry. I do apologize. Flu deaths, 24. Pneumonia deaths, 72.
All right. Interesting. So, yeah, I guess people in New Mexico just don't get sick a lot.
Yeah.
Next story. LAPD gun store manager arrested for stealing and selling guns. I had to read this a couple times. So the Los Angeles Police Academy has a gun store at it. The manager of that gun store apparently has been stealing firearms. There were like 40 stolen, something like that, and then selling them back to cops. So, I don't understand, Tony. Oh,
Oh, I understand. Cops
Gotta make
think,
that money.
yeah, cops think laws don't apply to them because they know they didn't jump through all the hoops required to buy the gun. And he knew that he could sell them to cops. So obviously, a cop got caught doing something and snitched, or didn't get the gun he wanted, and somebody else got it and he snitched. But yeah, he was doing dirt and got caught, and I love it. Now, what should be interesting is to see who actually gets locked up, who gets suspended, who gets fired, or how quickly it gets shoved under the rug and you just don't hear about it anymore, aka Leland Yee, and how quickly he disappeared.
oh yeah, the arms dealer himself.
Rocket launchers to gangbangers.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is kind of crazy. So law enforcement can buy off-roster firearms in California. Like they already have more rights than the citizens of California do. But yeah, they were doing it without the legal. He was selling them the guns without legally required federal paperwork, and it says probably at steep discounts. So I don't want to push too hard on that. But Josh, what do you think?
Well, does it say what weapons he was actually selling?
No, just March 20th, after nearly 40 firearms disappeared from the gun store.
I mean, I would imagine it'd be like police trade-ins and stuff like that. I mean, that's pretty cheap, really. You can get a Glock, trade-in from a cop for like $380 here anyway, out the door. So I don't know what it was, but it's exactly what it was. He was taking it to make a dime. I mean, when he knew he could.
Yeah, and I'm going to mention one more thing here. Is I know, so police officers, law enforcement, they can buy off-roster firearms in California. Also, one of the
off-roster, what do you mean?
Off-roster. So California Department of Justice has a very specific roster of firearms by name that people can actually own, and if they are not on the roster, meaning if the company owns all the guns and they're added to the roster, and basically nothing is added to the roster anymore, so that you can only buy very specific firearms in California.
Right, like Gen 4 Glocks are not allowed in California, right, or something like that.
I believe, yeah, something like that. I don't know specifically, but yeah, it's stuff like that. Like Gen 5 is definitely not allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Police officers, law enforcement, they can buy these off-roster firearms, and they can also sell them to California citizens. It's basically the only way to get off-roster firearms in California is to buy them from law enforcement that's selling them. So, dun dun dun.
Yeah. So that's exactly what was happening.
Yeah, that now that you said that, I remember hearing that. Yeah, cops can buy off-roster and then they can sell them. So yeah, I think a group of cops had some off the books business running. Yeah. And there's a bunch of Gen 4 and Gen 5 Glocks floating around California that used to belong to a police officer for a very short amount of time.
Yep.
This came up the other day. So in Colorado, we have 15-round mag limits. Law enforcement can buy standard capacity mags, meaning above 15 rounds from FFLs and things like that. I had one reach out to me recently. I think he's a deputy at the jail or the prison or the whatever it is. Which counts as law enforcement, and no problem with that. And he asked me if I could get him some magazines, and I was like, no. Since July 1st, 2013, standard capacity magazines are illegal in Colorado, and you can only have 15 rounds or less. And he said, well, no, I'm law enforcement. And my response immediately was, well, if citizens can't buy them, you're not buying them from me. And he got kind of butthurt, and I'm like, well, that's okay. This happened to me twice actually in the last month. And he got a little bit hurt, but like I don't really care if I can't sell it to the citizens of Colorado. I'm definitely not selling it to law enforcement. What do you guys think about that? I'll start with Tony.
I think there's a little Ronnie Barrett in you, because that's what he did to the entire state of California, and I think it's awesome. Hey, it's about principalities, as Big Perm said, and it really is. You're a citizen, dude. You're not military. You're law enforcement, and that means you're just a civilian too. And you should have to live with the same laws as civilians do.
Yeah.
Like I do support law enforcement. Like I have tons of friends that are cops, like really good people. I have no problem with that. I just, I kind of went through a little bit of back and forth internally, because my answer was quick and decisive, but internally I'm like, well, like these dudes are out there doing a really tough job all the time. Like, it's not that I don't want to support them. It's just that, man, I fundamentally can't make myself do it. Josh, like what would you do?
I think it's good that you stuck your ground. I mean, stood your ground or whatever. I agree that they are just like us, or just because they have a badge doesn't make them anything over us. Basically, is what I'm saying. And I think it's great that you did that.
Yeah,
I think it's retarded that you have a 15 limit, but
yeah, no,
that's another point.
15-round limits was the good old days in Jersey. Now we're down to 10.
Oh yeah, man, that's crazy.
It's nuts. So anyway, I didn't do that to Virgin Signal. I did it just because I see there's a lot, like I have a lot of friends that are firearms manufacturers and stuff like that. And I see them like posting that they sold, a department like 15 AR-15s or something. I see a lot of terrible comments online, but like, I understand, like I'm all about capitalism. That's what we're founded on. I am totally down with them doing so. It's just not something that I want to do. But yeah, it's like we tread a very thin line, I think, in the firearms industry, especially for people who are creators, whether it's of product or content or stuff like that. And I think that, sometimes lines have to be drawn, and it's interesting to me.
I'll go ahead and throw this one out there. It also bothers me sometimes when I see firearms trainers have law enforcement only classes. That bothers me a little too. But It is what it is.
Yeah, I've actually seen where they did, which it's whatever, but they did free classes for law enforcement. But I will say this: a lot of people think that just because you're law enforcement or just because you're military, you know everything there is to know about guns, and that's not the case at all. There's people that go out there and qualify one time a year. I would say most out of police and military, they qualify one time a year, and that's with a long gun. Nothing to do with a handgun. Yeah. So I would agree that they need all the training they can get, especially if they're the ones out there shooting my way, trying to protect me from somebody else. But giving them a free pass and a free class is kind of janky in my opinion.
Yeah,
but do you? I mean, you're free to do you. I just won't.
Yeah.
No,
I agree. All right, next story. Study finds that a large number of homicide victims are also criminals. It comes from bearing on. The notable part in here is that homicides in Baltimore largely involve criminals killing criminals. 82% of victims have criminal records. The average victim had 10.8 arrests, with 4.1 of those being drug offenses. 67% had an arrest record for drugs. 44% had an arrest record for gun crimes. 29% of victims were clearly known by the police to be members of drug crews or gangs. So I don't want to say that innocent people aren't killed by murderers, because they are. Like, clearly that happens. But this has to be a little bit of a wake-up call, I think, because, I mean, Baltimore is a pretty awful place. By all accounts, most of it is fairly crime-ridden. So I don't want to say that this will, go throughout the entire United States, but man, like, yeah. Bad people doing bad things to each other and innocent people. I don't know. Tony, what do you think?
I think those numbers reflect, actually, they're worse than national statistics, because usually national statistics talking about firearms deaths, it's 60% suicide, like 30-something% criminal on criminal. Baltimore is even worse, I think. But my whole thing is, yes, that happens. I mean, they paint it with a broad brush. Did they say arrested or convicted? Because I was arrested on gun charges that were immediately dropped. But I'm just saying.
Right. Arrest record, I believe, is how it's measured.
But yes, most crimes are bad guy on bad guy. And those numbers are being used by anti-gunners to push their own agenda. And it doesn't really affect the law-abiding everyday citizen that is in the house and minding their own business and go to work and mind their own business.
Yeah, no doubt. Josh?
I think that's probably fairly accurate. Which sucks, but it is what it is. And that's what we use to let them know that we're not the bad guys either. I mean, that's what we have to use, because we're not the ones out there doing it. And if you look at the numbers, clearly it's not just a gun guy out there doing it all, basically, which is what everybody wants. Everybody in the media and everybody was trying to paint as us as the ones that are doing it.
Now, for a while, I was reading a magazine that had nothing to do with firearms, but the person in this magazine got to do a ride along with PD in a major metropolitan city, and they had a lot of gun deaths, to the point that the politicians actually were willing to look the other way as they put together a task force to shut it down. And pretty much within a summer, they knew the people that were committing the crimes and the areas these deaths were taking place in and why they were taking place. And that summer, they were able to shut it down because they targeted a few individuals. And I'm talking not more than 24 people. But once they shut them down, the deaths dropped drastically. So we know where it's happening. Political correctness and not actually wanting to do anything about the problem is one of the hurdles that we're dealing with.
Unless they want to use it toward their agenda and make it look like, the average Joe that is out there doing it.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Next story is going to be, let's see, where do I want to go? ATF authorizes drive-through gun sales during pandemic. Talked about this last week, but it has come up again. This is on The Truth About Guns. So here's the thing. So the ATF put out some guidance that said, it's a new guidance, and it's to FFLs. Basically said that dealers can provide drive up or walk up service to reduce health risks posed by the coronavirus. The part here that I want to say is, licensees may carry out the requested activities through a drive up or walk up window or doorway where the customer is on the licensee's property or the exterior of the brick and mortar structure at the address listed on the license. I think this is dumb because we could do this already. Like, there's nothing that says I have to be inside the building here where my FFL is issued. Like, I could go do it in the parking lot if I wanted to. I guess maybe they just did it so people would actually know that.
As long as they fill out the 4473, what's the difference?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. You can't. They say specifically like you can't do it on adjacent property or anything like that. But the property, the address where my FFL is listed, like I could do this already. I don't need the ATF to tell me that. That's just the way the law works. Tony, you looked giddy.
Oh, I find it funny because isn't social distancing one of the reasons and protecting people's health one of the reasons New Mexico shut down the gun shops? Well, how's this? You don't even have to come inside.
Right.
Now, wouldn't you want this? Couldn't you just kick this off there? Yeah. They're so disingenuous with their reasoning. It has nothing to do with social distancing and keeping people healthy. That was a political agenda. So here's a way around it directly from the ATF. Again, like you guys said, you could do it anyway. And they're having a hissy fit over it because you're liars.
This is what I don't understand. Okay, now this has, I guess it can do with the gun shops stuff too. But anyway, so they're allowing things to happen right now because all this stuff is going on, like alcohol being able to be delivered, and you can pick it up at like we got Smoky Mountain Brewery down here, and that's a place where a lot of people eat at, and they they make their own beers and all that stuff. They're allowed to just send it with their guy that brings your food to you.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, do you not think that like after this is over, if this was okay now, what makes it not okay later? They're going to switch it back.
Well, I mean, they can switch it back. It was already like this. It was like this before they did anything. Like,
yeah,
it's dumb.
And truthfully, most gun stores don't have a drive-through window. I mean, stop. It's just funny to me.
Like if I want to pull guns from a ladder, I can. Like,
I'm just saying, like with everything, they're trying to make it out like, oh, we can do this for now, and it's like they have the power to make it do whatever they want to do when it comes to helping them out. But when it has to do with anything else, they don't.
You're very right. Like I absolutely 100% get where you're coming from, and I don't disagree with you at all. It's like, yeah, they'll be like, oh, well, no, we allowed that. No, it was already allowed previously. In fact, Ryan Kleckner talked about this on an episode of his Going Ballistic podcast recently. So if you listen to the most recent episode, you will see that that he briefly touched on this already. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's silly. God and Guns podcast from the Firearms Radio Network is watching. I do want to talk about this. Attorney General Barr vows to take action against officials targeting religious services. Now, I do apologize that this may not necessarily be gun related. In fact, there's not a ton of gun related news this week. Our producer Kenny Ortega did a wonderful job of assembling stories on a week that didn't have a whole lot of stories. So we may diverge just a little bit because we're talking about freedom. I think We all love Kenny. Because honestly, guns are part of freedom. And so there's been a lot of stuff, especially in like Kentucky and places like that. And we're actually seeing the attorney general is, I'm going to read this here. His spokeswoman said during this sacred week for many Americans, Easter weekend, Attorney General Barr is monitoring government regulation of religious services. While social distancing policies are appropriate during this emergency, they must be applied even-handedly and not single out religious organizations. Expect action from the DOJ next week. And we see from Kentucky, they were writing down people's license plates. I believe there was a court case where there was an injunction issued against a mayor being able to do things like that. And like, I agree. Like, I don't think that there should be an entire church full of people like right now. I think that that's probably pretty dangerous, but that's not what it is. They were having services in parking lots where everyone stayed in their car and listened to it. Like, how is that a problem? And honestly, I think it's, we have a lot of anti-gun rhetoric in this country. We have a lot of anti-religion, and we're seeing a lot of the tiny-headed nincompoops that are trying to flex their power on the things that they don't necessarily like. Like, I don't care if they like religion or not. I don't care if they like abortion or not. I don't care if they like guns or not. Things need to be applied equally. And, this kind of stuff, I 100% agree. And I hope that the attorney general goes after these morons. Josh?
Like I said before, I believe in freedom in this country. That's what we're here for. That's why that's the way we made this country. It's free, and I think that it's happening in a lot of places, and I don't understand how they can just push their authority on everybody. And not only that, it's showing you how much a lot of people are saying, like, oh no, I'm not like against police at all, like in any way, but everybody's like, oh, the police are on our side and all this sort of stuff. But it's showing how much they follow the rules and follow their orders and stuff like that when it comes to stuff like this, man. We got freedom of religion for a reason. I don't care if you're a Christian. I don't care if you're an atheist. You can do whatever you want. That's the beauty of our country. But when you're forcing your power and your authority on it, when you don't have that authority, that's a big problem. And they should go against them.
Yeah. Tony Simon.
I find it interesting that I checked out every political party of all the people that were speaking into a person. They were all Democrats. They don't get it. They're religious members of the Democratic Party, and they're looking at this. They're Democratic voters, and they're going to have a check on their morals when it comes time to walk into an election poll. And will they go, I'm going to vote for the person that shut my church down? I mean, really, are you going to do that? And it's up to the Republicans or anybody running against these Democrats that are against your religious freedom. You might want to bring it up during a campaign that these people attempted to do that and use the excuse of the coronavirus to do it,
Yep.
Especially when you're having a service in the car and you came near no one except the members of your own household. All right. They had this going on in Mississippi. They had the cops already there waiting for the 6:30 sermon to kick off. They had cops in the parking lot already.
Yep.
And understand, I don't give a damn if the cop feels badly when he drags me off to jail. He's dragging me off to jail. So no, people need to get over this whole thing. The law enforcement is going to stand with us when it's obvious that they're going to do their job.
Yep.
Now, if you want to do something about that, you got to be politically active and get rid of these douchey politicians. But the cops are still going to do their job, whatever that is, whether you agree with the law or not.
Whatever the order is, they're going to follow.
Whether they agree with the law or not, they're still going to enforce it. So it's up to you to make sure those laws don't get passed.
That's how they make their money, man. That is their job. So do you think somebody's going to come out here and just get laid off or fired because they're not doing something they're not supposed to? No, they're going to follow and they're going to do their job.
Yeah. And for gun people, listen, like I constantly see the same tired platitudes regurgitated online constantly that, when it comes to door-to-door confiscation, that the people who took the oath are not going to do that. And I'm like, dude, this is a test run right now. We see that it's happening. Brighton, Colorado, a man, his 6-year-old daughter and his wife playing t-ball at a park by themselves. Dad's civil rights violated by the Brighton, Colorado Police Department. We're seeing it more and more. Kentucky. Like, I don't know. I've been to Kentucky. It's awesome.
I'm originally from Kentucky.
Yeah, and you would not think that Kentucky police would be writing down people's license plate numbers for going to a church service in their cars in a parking lot.
Well, I will say this: they just they put in a really, really democratic governor, governor that is pushing a lot of crazy stuff in Kentucky right now.
Yeah, but the bottom,
I think would pass in Kentucky is going through.
right. The bottom line is the same reason that people, they put up with infringement after infringement after infringement, and they never act on those infringements, is the same reason that these police are doing this. They're like, well, I got to support my family, and I got to take care of my children and my wife, and I got to do the things that I have to do, even if it's hard for me to stomach sometimes. And that this is the mindset that everyone goes by, right? Like everyone does these things, like these are the mindsets. They're like, I'm not going to give up my house, my car, like my hobbies and my family, for this ethical or moral decision that I have to make right now. Like, it's not the end of the world. Nothing's gonna, it's not the end of the world. Nothing's gonna happen. It'll be just fine. Like, yeah, I'm doing this thing that I think is wrong, and I'm doing it for the right reasons. And that's what everybody thinks about everything. And we need to keep that in mind.
No one sees themselves as a bad guy. Understand that. The other thing is this. There are almost 700,000 law enforcement officers in the country. Because you're related to 2 and you know 3 others don't mean you know most of them. All right, so stop that. That's the most ridiculous thing ever. Again, almost 700,000 law enforcement officers in this country full time. I work with law enforcement. I am not a law enforcement officer. They will do their job. They will walk right over you. Because at the end of the day, they have to pay their mortgage, they have to feed their kids, and they have to make it home safely.
Yeah, I agree.
I do too. And again, like, it's liberty doesn't crack all at once, right? It's taken piece by piece until there's none left. And I think that's what it is. Alex R says the problem is they could be relieved of their duty and replaced with the LEOs that will do it. And then, their kids are going hungry and their life is forever. Say again.
But hey, you saw the stuff that they did in Virginia where they, the cops were kicking everybody out because they were trying to, hold their ground in there and stuff like that, and they were trying to kick them all out. I mean, they told them to, and they did what they told them to do.
Yeah.
So that should tell you right there, man.
Well, let's talk about Virginia. Here's the thing: is there was all kinds of great, people showing up and protesting against all the gun control laws that were put into place, and the coward Ralph Northam, because there was no protesting available because of the China virus, COVID-19, coronavirus, whatever you want to call it. He has signed a bunch of crazy anti-gun legislation, anti-freedom legislation in Virginia when no one could actually do it. So the things that he actually signed were requiring background checks on all gun sales in Virginia, so universal background checks, reinstituting a limit on handgun sales to 1 a month. What? Increasing penalties for recklessly leaving firearms near children or failing to report a lost or stolen firearm within 2 days, allowing localities to set their own rules on the presence of firearms in public, prohibiting those subject to a protective order from possessing firearms already illegal. Oh, wait. Subject to, yeah. I don't know. That seems a little bit red flaggy, and creating a red flag law that allows law enforcement to temporarily seize a gun from a person deemed to pose a danger to themselves or others. He did not sign the assault weapons ban, but said, hey, it's coming back. We're doing this a little bit at a time. And he did it when people in Virginia are dealing with COVID-19. He did it when people could not protest his draconian, idiotic gun control measures. Tony, you were in.
Well, I'm from Virginia. I wasn't in Virginia doing the thing. I was out in Vegas for SHOT Show. Why? Because prior to that, I was trying to get people in Virginia to actually vote. 70% of them stayed home, and that's how he got elected. So it's your own fault. You didn't participate in the process, and now you're complaining because you can't stand outside and wave a flag. Guess what? He could have passed it anyway. Virginia governor can only serve 1 term. They can't serve consecutive terms. So it makes no difference how you protest to him. He's not going to have the job anyway. What you need to do is go down and take out your legislators at the election polls, and you got to replace every single one of them. Now, will you remember this come November, or will you freaking have the same voter apathy that allowed this guy to be elected in the first place? So no, I'm not throwing a pity party for Virginians because you didn't pay attention. You didn't do your civic duty. And now my home state that had some of the best laws there were prior to Doug Wilder's dumb freaking 1 gun a month that happened back in the 80s. He was an idiot. Now it's back. Now you're going to have to fight against that tide. You're going to have to push all those laws back. You're going to have to get back to the good old days of 2019. And that's going to be your first battle when you get new legislators in come the November election. So congratulations. Voter apathy got where you are today. I hope the rest of America learns from it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a lot to be said after that. Honestly,
No,
that's pretty much exactly it.
Here's one thing I do want to point out. Like, I am very much for term limiting people. Like, I think that politics and being a politician should be something that no one wants to do. Anyone who wants to do it should be barred from ever serving. Because I think that there's power and control desires that exist there. I am very much for term limits. I give them time and then get them out, give them time to do the good that they need to do and then get them out of there. I got to say that seeing Virginia and how it's gone, it's made me reassess. I'm not saying that I'm against term limits, but this is a governor that goes in for one term. He absolutely doesn't give a crap what happens. If he has an agenda, he can do anything he wants to pursue and put in place that agenda, because it just doesn't matter, because he knows he's not getting reelected anyway. So all he's really concerned about is those special interests that are going to pay him when he's done being the governor and ruining the fine state of Virginia.
Exactly.
But the next time that somebody comes in and let's say they do learn their lesson and they, vote somebody in that's more gun friendly, obviously that stuff can be wiped off the board, though, right?
No.
It takes a lot of hard work because you got to get the momentum behind you. It's easier to get the ban hammer swinging than it is to reverse gun laws that are allowed to be passed. I don't remember whether they voted out the 1 gun a month law or whether it was sunset. I just know it was dumb because it was just a number you pulled up. Yeah, you can only buy 1 handgun a month.
Yeah, Mark K literally just said, I've never heard of a gun law being overturned. Just look at Colorado. I would love to say that because it is my home state. July 1st, 2013, the 15-round magazine limit went into effect. We recalled the head of the Colorado Senate, John Morse. We also recalled one of his cronies, Angela Giron, 2 of the people responsible for the nonsense and the changing of policies that allowed this crap to be put into place. We had almost all the sheriffs in the state sue the attorney general, and nothing worked. Nothing happened. We lost all the cases. There's still things being pursued to this day. It is 2020. It is 7 years later almost, and we still have these stupid laws put in place. And in Colorado, Colorado is the Wild West. It's controlled by Denver, Fort Collins, and Boulder, which are bastions of blue and a sea of red. But clever gerrymandering has allowed this stuff to exist, and this stuff doesn't go away. Like we cannot get rid of the nonsense that happened, and now we've got probably in my lifetime the worst governor we've ever had in Colorado, and I see more of this coming.
Man, that sucks. I didn't know it was like that hard. I guess I never really looked into it.
Yeah, we did the undoable. Like in Colorado, we recalled the head of the Senate that pushed all this through and one of his cronies, and it didn't matter. Like he's gone. He's no longer even a politician.
Wow.
And it didn't matter at all. And he did what he did, and now I'm sure he's making great money from the special interests that own his ass. Sorry, Kenny, my bad. I got a little passionate there.
It does that, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh boy, talking about passionate. Did you guys see the video of the Philadelphia police pulling a guy off the bus for not wearing a mask? And I mean pulling him off, like pulling his legs out of socket, and what? That is absolutely insane. So they basically put into play a thing where you couldn't ride public transportation without a mask. Whatever. But then this guy wasn't on there, refused to get off the bus when the RTA or whatever it was asked him to get off the bus, and then basically yanked him as hard as several grown men could do. But then, because the video went viral, then the Philadelphia Transit Agency, I guess the PTA, reversed their policy on face masks. They are no longer, they still require somebody to wear a mask to get on public transportation, but they're not going after anyone who's not doing it. So the law still exists, but they're not just yanking people forcefully off bus. I don't even know where I come down, Tony.
I come down on more cops can't think for themselves. So you're going to get into a physical altercation and skin to skin contact and risk life and limb to take a dude off. Just give the guy a effing mask. Here, bro, put this on. Stay on the bus. Go about your business. End of thing. But nope. Because it's like that whole alpha male syndrome, apex predator crap. He fought back. He said no to you. So now you have to prove that you're in charge. No. And this is coming from a person that's done. I mean, I bounced in clubs and stuff, but my whole thing is you avoid confrontation. You try to come to the most peaceful coexistence you could come and still get the job done. The problem was he didn't have a mask on. Here's a mask. Put it on. Go about your day.
I don't
Now,
understand.
8 of you dragged this dude off. You all kind of hurt yourselves. He could have snapped. He could have had some mental thing going. Now you have dudes with a badge and a gun that could possibly take a dude's life based on the fact that he didn't have a mask. Silly.
Yep, 100% agree. Now, was it said that he just didn't have a mask, or he just didn't want to wear one?
I don't think it's said, and honestly, I don't think it matters. Like,
Well, it doesn't, but like he said, or Tony said, just give him a mask, man. I'm sure they got several. Well, I mean, I know they're in shortages right now or whatever, but
they were all wearing masks.
yeah, they all had one. So I'm sure they have a couple, is what I'm saying. So yeah, I agree with him. Just give him a freaking mask. And if he refuses to do it, then I guess, go from there or whatever.
Yeah.
But,
So, what about this? Like, I think, at this point, mandatory wearing of masks is not because masks really do anything for most of us as far as catching COVID-19, China virus, coronavirus, whatever you want to call it. What masks do, possibly, perhaps, is prevent somebody who is positive from actually spreading that. So is it a terrible thing to say, hey, if you're going to use this public transportation, just wear a mask, put a t-shirt around your head, put your underwear on your face, like whatever you want to do? Is that an awful thing? And if someone doesn't want to do that, like telling them, no, you can't ride the public transportation. I don't know. Like I come down in a couple different places on it. Like clearly freedom, clearly they should not have ripped this man off the bus. But when I got sick, I don't know, 3, maybe 4 weeks ago now, I had a really bad fever. I have no idea what I had. I had all the symptoms of coronavirus. I self-quarantined for 14 days. I didn't go to the stores. I went from my home to my car to my office where I'm 100% by myself all day, every day. And then I went home. And I for 2 weeks, I did that because I thought it was the responsible thing to do. So if this guy is on the bus and he doesn't wear the mask that could possibly prevent it, like, does he deserve to ride the bus? I don't know where to go on that one. Like,
it's just another thing of authority, man. That's all it is, like you said. Like,
I think it's up to the individual whether they want to choose to be responsible, as everyone's saying, or not. No, I'm doing me. I wouldn't wear a mask, but they won't allow me in my job without one. Now they have little signs all in all the stores that a mask is required. That mask is horse crap. That mask is a placebo. I was out of work the entire summer last year because of pneumonia. I am at risk. I'm overweight. I have diabetes. I have a history of respiratory diseases. And I'm telling you right now, that mask is horse crap. But, dude, it's up to you as an individual also to avoid conflict. Now, if he had principles against wearing a mask, okay. Well, how far do you want to take this? Because, again, these guys have a badge and a gun, and they can take your life over your principles. Is it really worth it?
Yeah.
They dragged him off the bus. They threw him off the bus. He didn't get hurt. They didn't get hurt. But the chance of that over something that's a placebo is ridiculous.
Yeah. And, here's the thing. Like, knowing that you have HIV and still having sex with someone without telling them is a crime in most places, not California anymore.
Really? That's...
Yeah, not in California anymore.
Surprising. That's so surprising.
It is. But if this guy's going on the bus and he has ill intent and he's sick and he just wants to spread it to as many people to make them suffer as possible, I just try to look at it from like all the different angles. Like ripping him off the bus like they did is completely unacceptable. I don't really know what the answer is at that point, but yeah, we're in a strange time in this country, a very strange time.
The dude that was a bus driver and it was in Michigan or. Yeah, I think Michigan or Detroit or something like that, where he actually died like 11 days after this lady was coughing all over people on the bus and stuff like that. He actually put up a Facebook video about it. Like, he went on his Facebook and was ranting basically like, I can't believe, you would be so indecent to come on a bus, not necessarily about wearing a mask. This is before anybody talked about wearing a mask. And he was like, you would go in there and you'd cough and not cover your mouth and all sort of stuff. And he was like, it's just, not right. And apparently he died like 11 days later from
All right.
COVID-19.
But understand that they're saying almost anything causes COVID-19. They're not even checking. You drop dead, it was COVID-19. I'm like, he got hit by a bus. Yeah, it was COVID-19.
Well,
so no, they're getting paid.
They said it was him and his son actually went.
Yeah, what do you call it? There are the states getting paid based on getting federal dollars based on a number of COVID-19 deaths they have. So of course they're inflating those. I don't know anything about this story, and I'm not even saying he didn't die from it. I'm just saying be cautious because every death they say from COVID-19 isn't from COVID-19.
And
they're admitting they've admitted it.
So the more number of people they put in the hospital and stuff like that is also they get paid for that, right?
Yep, it's kind of like the special needs kids with the school systems. All of a sudden, we have so many more kids with are diagnosed with autism and learning disorders because they get federal dollars. The school systems do, based on those numbers.
It's a crazy time, man. So Mark K pointed out that he didn't think masks were a legal requirement. Well, in California, there's a county that's fining residents $1,000 for not wearing masks. In Colorado, we have a recommended if you're out in public, you should wear a mask. But this is 4 days after he closed all the Hobby Lobby, Joann Fabrics, and everything else where you could actually get the fabric to make a homemade mask because all the surgical masks and N95 and XN95 and everything is gone. Like no one has any, not even the people who actually need them in the hospitals. So really stupidity, but $1,000 for not wearing face masks in public. The reason I brought this story up is because A, we were just talking about it, but secondly, because the sheriff, Riverside Sheriff Chad Bianco is a dumbass and says this is a valid order and enforceable by fine, imprisonment, or both. And then he takes a deep inhale and then he exhales out of the other side of his mouth and says, while this order does have potential criminal and civil consequences, this is the last thing I want to happen while we deal with the crisis. We will not be stopping you while you're on a walk with your kids or while you're out running or hiking. This is not a police state. We're not setting up a police state. This is not a declaration of martial law in Riverside County, but we are going to fine people, but we're not actually going to pull people over and stop people, but we're going to fine people. We're not going to actually do anything to enforce this, but we're going to fine people, but we're not actually going to fine people because we're not doing anything. I'm so sick of this nonsense. Josh.
Yeah.
What the heck?
I was reading the comments. Yeah, I agree, man.
What the heck?
I don't know why we think that we just give these people the authority to do whatever they want and tell us how to do whatever. I just don't understand it. I don't understand why we're letting it go, to be honest with you.
Because they told you it was for your health. People they want to be led for the most part. They don't really want freedom. They just want to watch their games. They just want to do the things that are easy, not understanding freedom isn't free. And this is infringing on your freedoms. And this is yet another cop that people, oh, well, no, they won't. Well, he just said he would. But then at the same time, he said he won't. What do you think he's going to do? It's going to be up to officer discretion whether he stops you while you're jogging or out or whatever. And depends on what they tell them back at the squad room, whether they tell them to enforce it or not, whether the cop doesn't like you because he knows you or doesn't like your family. All of that's possible when you pass laws.
Dude, I have a couple people in my family that are, and it's okay, they don't watch anything that I watch so far, but they are very liberal-ish. And hold on,
Yep, that's one of them. They came after him. You saw that, right?
Well, that's the thing is like I have plenty of people like on my friends list or in my family that
yeah, so they are very, very liberal-esque, and they are. I was trying to talk to them about like, all this stuff as far as them telling us what to do, telling us where to go, telling us where to eat, telling us where to stay home, all this other stuff, and they're just like, what you would rather be at risk of being sick and all this sort of stuff. And I was just like, no, I'd rather people not tell me what to do in a free I almost said the F word on there, Kenny. I'm sorry.
Nice.
Tell me what to do in a free freaking country, man. That's and not only that, when the numbers are just, I mean, they're so much lower than other pandemics or sicknesses that we had. H1N1, flu even. flu that is a seasonal thing that comes back every single year, every season, or whenever the season comes. I mean, it's nonsense that people are wanting to be led and refuse to, stand up for themselves.
They've had it too easy too long. So they think this freedom just won't go away, even as they're taking it away from you. Even if they're telling you to stay in your house, even when they're taking down basketball goals so your kid can't play by themselves. You go, well, we're still free. No, you're not. Now get your butt in the house. Yeah. You're not free. And it's a joke.
It is. And Tony, you're right. Like exactly what you're saying. Like people are like, oh no, I've had this freedom so long, it's not ever going to be taken away. But then we see things like 3.7 million guns sold or background checks done for guns sold in March. The greatest number ever. The next closest was 2016. After I don't even remember what thing it was after, but 2.4 million, I believe 2.4. Yeah. Was the greatest number in the month of March ever since that. And we destroyed it. So yeah, like people on the one hand are like letting all their rights be infringed, letting all their freedoms be infringed. And on the other hand, they're going to buy a gun so they can defend themselves because they realize that no one's there to do it for them. Like,
have you had anybody that that did not have a gun before come and talk to you? Hey man, what should I do? What should I get? Have y'all had that?
Yep. Yeah, I'm a gun dealer. I've sold a bunch to them.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I had one, actually.
I'm trying to stop this. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't recognize that.
That's a hangout thing.
My whole thing is this. I've had people who know I'm a gun guy but don't know exactly what I do approach me trying to buy guns, wanting all kinds of information about it. And it's some of the same ones that scoffed when I told them they should get a firearms purchase permit and a firearms ID card in New Jersey just in case something happened. They didn't want to hear it. Yeah. Now all of a sudden they're scrambling around trying to get something, and then they say, of course, the stupidest thing you could possibly tell me. Well, I know I can come to you and get a gun, right? No. Yeah. You'll give me one, right?
I've had people ask me, but I've also had people just want to know, hey, what's your recommendation? Basically, is what they want to know. And I've helped a bunch out. I mean, the more I can bring over to the good side, I'm going to try.
I feel like Ryan Kleckner is like, he sensed that I was just talking about him because that was him calling.
Mm-hmm. That's funny.
I'm like, oh God, what did I say wrong?
Uh-oh.
Actually, I have a lady who we've been making appointments to go to a gun store because you have to make an appointment because she has her pistol purchase permit in Jersey and it ends at the end of the month and she has to make that appointment. She wants to go with me or me to go with her when she makes her purchase. And it's like a little bit ridiculous, but hey, I'm glad to help. So yeah, I'll take my time for free to go help her buy a gun.
Buy a Glock.
Well, Glock 19. All guns should be Glock 19s. All Glocks should be 9mm.
My man.
Get out of here. All right. Next story.
I port for life.
Exactly. I want to talk about Michigan real quick. The Michigan governor deems fruit and vegetable plants as non-essential. Michigan governor extends travel ban to include family and friends residences. Like if you have a second home, you can no longer travel to your second home for any reason. Michigan judge bars police from enforcing sex offender registrations. And then today there was a big, huge civil disobedience as drivers swarmed Michigan Capitol to protest coronavirus lockdown measures. People were standing out in front of the Capitol. They clogged the streets. Operation Gridlock, I believe, is one thing that I heard. Oh yeah, here it is right here. Organized by the Michigan Conservative Coalition. Lots of people doing things that I think the Michigan governor is just bat crap crazy. I don't even know what's happening. It is insane there. And she seems like a lunatic. I was watching a couple things with her a couple days ago and she's having a battle with Trump her last name's Whitmer. He referred to her as half Whitmer. But oh my goodness, Michigan is a disaster right now. I mean, clearly Detroit's been a disaster for a long time, but wow, Michigan people, I'm so sorry. Tony, did you read any of this? Like what's going on?
I read the sex registry thing. I missed the one over the fruits and vegetables. The travel ban really makes no sense. Is the governor, Michigan governor, that chick with the shiny forehead?
Yeah.
Man, with a forehead that big, you think her brain would be bigger.
It's a 5
The whole thing, the thing that bothered me about this whole, I mean, truthfully, let's talk about the sex offender thing and not enforcing it. It's not because they don't want to enforce it. It's because, again, you allow politicians to write vague laws, and the vague laws get shut down by lawsuits. You can't make vague laws and then try to enforce them against people taking away their rights. So keep that in mind, dude. These politicians don't care. They're not that bright. They just want to do stuff to get them reelected and looks good. And you got to make them pay when it comes to court. I mean, excuse me, when you go to the, you have to make them pay when you go to the voting booth, because every time there's a court case, we're paying for both sides of it.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yep.
It's insane, Josh.
It seems to me like they're just trying to do everything that's bad and knock out everything that's good. Like, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. They're putting stuff, making stuff that's illegal or whatever, or they're trying to enforce, yet they're letting criminals out. They're gonna throw you in jail if you're not wearing a fucking mask, but they're gonna let criminals out that are already in jail because they're afraid they're gonna get coronavirus. Like, that makes no sense whatsoever. It's like they're trying to turn this. I don't know what they're trying to turn it into, to be honest with you, man. I really don't.
That's me too.
Sorry.
I don't know what's going on. Like this, I mean, buying seeds to plant a garden. Like, I'm sorry, but planting a garden is about as socially distant as you can be. It's almost like being like a Nickelback fan.
No, what it is taking your individuality away, taking your ability to not have to deal with the government away. They want you to be dependent upon the government.
Yeah, and then they're giving you $1,200 as the stimulus, and then I read today
they're putting in there
the $4,000 a month or something like that.
No, I've heard. I mean, they're putting in a. I saw it on Johnny's thing the other day. They're putting in a some kind of gun grab or whatever in with the stimulus.
Of course,
I didn't see that. I haven't really looked that much into it, but yeah, I mean, like $25 million for the Kennedy Center that donates $5 million a year to the Democratic Party. Like, it's money laundering happening in front of our eyes. But yeah, just stuff like that. And Tony, you nailed it, man. They are taking away autonomy. They are taking away people's dependence on themselves because they want people to depend on the state. Because if people,
communism, they're trying out socialism right now. They're just giving it a free trial. Basically, is what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Well, they put you out of work. They put you out of work for freaking a month or more, and then they say, "Here's $1,200. Now stay in the house." I'm like, "What? This is not how America's supposed to work." And putting people out of jobs is not helping anything. But I mean, we're not talking about that now. We're talking about overreach by your government. And here's the thing about those buying 2.7 million guns or 2.7 million background checks. Yes, you're getting it to defend yourself, but how many of those people really have in their head gone to the point that they might have to stand up against their very own government?
None.
Exactly. So, I mean, 2.7 million guns to defend yourself against bad guys, awesome. But when are y'all getting ready for the boogaloo? And what does it take to cross that line? Because they already told you to stay in their house. They're already at your churches trying to close them down, arrest you, take your license plate numbers for practicing your religion. They're dragging you off of buses because you don't have a piece of useless cloth over your nose and mouth. What is tyranny to you people?
I'll be honest with you. I'm just waiting for some shit to pop off. It's going to happen.
So Colorado's governor today said that Colorado social distancing requirements will not be lifted until there is an effective vaccine in the wild, which could take years. I'm seeing stuff all over the place that's talking about social distancing is going to be a thing until at least 2022. Look, man, by 2022, we're going to have COVID-26. Like, get the out of here, man.
Dude, it's much like their emergency powers when governors can say their states of emergency and suspend some of your rights during states of emergency. They can make that state of emergency last as long as they want. Pennsylvania has a state of emergency based on the opioid epidemic. It has nothing to do with anything, but they make sure that, I think it was like some of the carry laws are affected by it.
Yeah. And
that's because they can.
Our governor said today that vaccine stuff, don't forget that we're 13 days past our peak infection and we are 7 days past our peak deaths. And yeah, here we go, boys.
Mm-hmm.
Time. Last thing I want to talk about. Alyssa Milano in Minecraft. Alyssa Milano urges public not to buy guns during a pandemic. So I have a pretty strict policy of I don't give a crap what any celebrity ever has to say about anything. And this just goes to it. Like Alyssa Milano does not live in the same universe that the rest of us live in. Like she lives in, she lives in a very nice place and has all the money to do the things that she needs to do. She does not have to worry about things like that normal people have to worry about, groceries and paying mortgage and things like that. She has admitted multiple times that she owns guns, that she has guns, but she's saying wash your hands and don't go buy guns because those guns could be used to shoot up our schools and things like that, and blah 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 blah. And like, I don't care what Alyssa Milano says. I haven't cared. I didn't even care when she was awesome. Like when
Was she awesome?
No, I didn't care when she was hot. Now she gets,
Okay, she's still hot.
Back.
She's still hot.
I don't know.
Wait, she's the one that did the music video with all of her hair touched, covering her boobs, right?
What?
Was that Tony?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Alyssa Milano boobs. Hold on, I'm good. Pause the show.
No, there's
Alyssa.
it's gonna pop up. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
No, wait, that's another singer. Who was that?
Were you talking about the chick in the White Snake video?
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
Man, he's 12 years old. There's no way he knew about that White Snake video.
I know that video.
I mean, look, Alyssa Milano should have left Charles in charge because she's dumb AF. Josh, do you listen to celebrities?
Do what?
Do you listen to celebrities?
Yeah, no, not at all.
That was awesome. I don't care about celebrities, whether they stand with me or against me, for real though. I mean, because that's their job doesn't mean they have any more intelligence about their decisions than I do. Alyssa Milano is just entertaining to me. Who the hell listens to Alyssa Milano for any information, including acting? So, I mean, no, I don't get any information from that lady based on that.
Alanis Morissette. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Oh no! Listen, Alanis Morissette is not hot. I mean, she can sing, and she's just not ugly, but she's not hot. Yeah, Alyssa Milano's a whack job. I like hearing her talk, much like I like reading Trump's tweets because they're just insane, and she just goes off, and it's just hilarious. She's telling people not to buy a gun, but she has one. She has a few.
I don't know what she's famous for. I know her name, but I don't know. What
she was in a
child
show.
actor.
Yeah, she was in a show with Scott Baio in the 80s or 90s. She was in a pretty good show called Charmed about witches in high school.
She was in Archie. She was in Archie's Place, Archie Bunker's spinoff.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, she's been around for a while. I mean, she's a child actor. She whatever, and she's attractive, but she's a whack job. She hates Trump. And I think every now and again she has a meltdown over him.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, it's crazy. It's a crazy time. The stories like this week and last week, honestly, like everything's insane right now. I hope everyone's out there doing really well. And we don't even have time to talk about the 64-year-old guy whose coworkers bought him a trip in a fighter jet that didn't actually want to or ever show any interest in a fighter jet. And as he panicked in the fighter jet, accidentally ejected himself out of the fighter jet and landed in a field.
Dude. That was the greatest thing ever. Talk about either he told a lie back in the day about something and it just grew to, you know what we should do for his birthday? He loves flying so much.
Yeah, like what? So apparently he had a watch on and he was like tachycardic. He had like a pulse of 134 to 141 before he even got on the plane, like lost it, tried to grab on something to hold on to in the plane. My favorite quote in that entire story is that the man who had never shown any interest in planes or flying was very surprised when his coworkers brought him to an airstrip so that he could have a flight in a fighter jet.
Well, I think it's probably his fault because his name was Nick Goose Bradshaw. And check Goose. He checked.
God in Top Gun.
There you go. Exactly. I don't know. It's a crazy time. Thank you everyone for watching. Hope you're all doing great out there. Josh, what have you been up to, man? Like, how's quarantine treating you?
Quarantine is crappy, man. No, I don't. It's not as fun as it seems. I'm trying to video everything I can think of, even if it has to do with building stuff in my house.
Yeah, I know. I'm watching the vlogs. I'm like, God damn, this guy's bored.
Yeah. So, I'm trying to get with Josh and trying to do some more gun stuff, but it's we passed our 10,000 subscriber mark in this whole thing.
Yeah, I saw that.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, it's a big milestone for us, and honestly, we never thought that 10,000 people would actually like to hear what we're saying. So,
I'd say it's a lot smaller of a number.
Yeah.
I mean, 10,000 people subscribe, but maybe like 1,000 like what you're saying.
Yeah, that's probably true.
And 12 comment.
Exactly. Where can people find you, Josh?
Black Diamond Guns of Gear on YouTube, and also Black Diamond Guns of Gear on Instagram and Facebook. I would like to get those numbers up in Instagram if y'all are listening.
There you go. Josh, thanks for being here. Tell other Josh we miss him. I miss you guys too. Today was supposed to be my flight to go to Tennessee.
Well, we're gonna have to just room together when we go to IV-88 next year.
I know. Crazy time. Tony, what you been up to?
Been appearing at a lot of podcasts. I was part of Polite Society's podcast, Gun 101, where we talked about firearms manipulation, marksmanship, fundamentals, and firearm storage. Of course, I'm on this show tonight. Tomorrow, I'm on self-defense gun stories. And of course, I do the weekly show, the Gun and Gear Review podcast. And also, I do the Second is for Everyone podcast, which this week's episode is called Snitches Get Stitches. It's available on your favorite podcast app. Also, guys, look, you can find my stuff on diversityshoot.com. You can donate. You can buy my swag. You can buy my Bubbles t-shirt or swag like that. But more importantly, go through your phone, go through your contact list, call somebody you haven't talked to in a minute because they might be going through something right now because they're stuck at home or going out of their mind. And this is a time you can reach out to somebody and just talk to them. Just talk to them. Maybe once a day, pick somebody's name you haven't spoken to in a while. Email them, text them, call them.
FaceTime.
There you go.
Anything.
Just don't FaceTime me, man. I'm not answering that.
Yeah, me neither.
Taking a poop.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys being here. And maybe it is a good time. Like I know people are going through a lot right now. Suicide prevention hotline is 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-TALK, or you can even text the number 741-741. Use that if you need it. Go check out our advertisers, Patriot Patch Company, patriotpatch.co, and Second Call Defense Firearms Radio.tv/SCD. And don't forget, This Week in Guns is produced by Kenny Ortega and Benjamin Allreed, and it's a production of the Firearms Radio Network. And I'll talk to y'all next week.
It's the largest pound for pound podcast on the Firearms Radio Network right now.
Damn straight.